Well, good morning, everybody, and happy Saturday. I I swear, with God as my witness, I did not put him up to that. Y'all know that I don't do mean, insensitive, ignorant, off the hook shenanigans. I don't encourage this type of behavior. I just don't. And the bottom line is that was his idea, folks. I am licensed couple marriage and family therapist and sports family therapist, Dr. Lauren Pitts. This is House Dog Pregame. I'm gonna let this nut introduce himself because I can't even tell you, like, he's in such rare form today. I cannot tell you because it would be totally inappropriate, my five, to tell you what we was even talking about before we came live today. He in rare form today, y'all. So I'm just giving you a heads up. The disclaimer is he has his own mind, his own language, his own thoughts, and Ronnie be acting up. Let me just get and put that out there. You got a fool. Go ahead.
You know, my grandmother Sally had a saying, if it doesn't come out in the wash, it sure enough will come out in the rinse. And sometimes it's not about the individual battles as so much it is the entire war, right? And NFL season is a combination of a lot of battles that culminate with a war.
Him and my son are fighting.
And I said it all year. I said, just be patient. The real Eagles will show themselves. And sure enough, in grand fashion, just like I called it, they showed their true selves. Cry, Eagles, cry. And for all you Eagles fans, especially you fair weather Eagle fans, I just want to give my one synopsis about the Super Bowl. Phenomenal game. However, do not. And for all you former football players who are Eagles fans, how dare you sit there and say that Bradbury holding Juju Smith-Schuster on a 3rd and 8 in the fourth quarter is the reason why the Eagles lost the game. How dare you? Where was that same energy when Jalen Hurts fumbled the ball before halftime and the Chiefs got that scoop and scored? Where was that same energy when the Eagles punt team gave up a 65-yard punt return? Dr. Pitts, do you know that was a Super Bowl record?
I'm aware.
That was a Super Bowl record, 65 yards. You gave Patrick Mahomes 5 yards to score a touchdown. Bradbury holding. And all you out there who's sitting there saying Juju is a sore winner for posting that Valentine's Day card of Bradbury talking about I'll hold you when it matters most, cry me a river. It's crazy. I think the NFL will be way more. Look, by tax status, the NFL is an entertainment business. And legally, the NFL can make sure certain games end a certain way. Legally, right? So I say all that to say, if they want to talk a little trash, talk a little.
I want to comment on one thing. I do want to comment on one thing, and I said it to you. I think I texted you about it, right? What I find is interesting, and I know that the comment about the holding call and all of that, I know that because I'm not on Twitter, but from what I'm understanding, all the tweets and stuff that were going back and forth were between the players. But of course, fans chime in on all that stuff too. And what I think is so interesting where the fans are concerned is that folk were in an uproar because that post went up about the hold and folk were so offended. But that's old school, right? You can dish it out, but you can't take it. Y'all booed my quarterback when he was awarded Man of the Year. I have no sympathy for the fans that are feeling some type of way because they got jugged about the holding call, because it's like y'all ignorant behinds booed my quarterback when he was
Talk about it.
here.
Get it off your
And
chest.
oh, by the way,
Get it out. Come
no,
on.
they
There we
didn't
go. There we
televise it.
go.
Even though they didn't televise it, the other thing they were saying on ESPN is that even when they introduced the 2023 Hall of Fame class, that they booed DeMarcus Ware when he was inducted into the Hall of Fame. So there's just certain things that I don't approve of, but I also know that karma come back and bite you in the behind like a mug. And if you can't dish it out, don't, if you can't take it,
Talk
don't dish
about it. You know what? And I would think I'm a very objective person. Now, there's no fans more obnoxious than the Cowboys fans.
People say that, but I really believe Phillies fans, man.
But if there is a close second, if there is a very close second, it's Philly. And what did I say? I never saw this many Philly fans come out the woodworks at the beginning of the season, because by the time they hit 6-0, everybody and their mama was an Eagles fan. And I'm just like, since when?
Clarify something for me. People, because it's my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong. Right. People, it's my understanding that people consider Cowboys fans obnoxious because we haven't won a Super Bowl in 30 years, but we always say this our year. We actually went for Valentine's Day. We went to a comedy show, and one of the natives of DFW was talking about mental illness. He said what you said. He was talking about mental illness, and he was like, he has an uncle that's suffering from mental illness. Y'all want to know what he's suffering from? And of course, we're like, yeah. He was like, he thinks that every year is the Cowboys' year. So, because it was funny. It was funny, right? It's like, okay, you got that. I'm gonna give you spirit fingers for that.
Oh, what's his name?
Eric can tell you. He noted all the comedians, but most of them were really, 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 really good. But the thing that bothers me is that I honestly and truthfully believe, I think that it's easy to say, oh, Cowboys fans are so obnoxious. Oh, Philly fans are so obnoxious. But what I've learned from going to different cities where I've attended NFL games, baby, whoever the home team, that area, they're obnoxious. They're obnoxious. Folk are obnoxious wherever you are. Like, I've gone to the NFL games at the the stadium where the Giants and the Jets play. Like, I've you know what I'm saying? I've been to to games at FedEx Field. I've been to games at RFK. I've been to NFL games at different stadiums around the country. And it's like, you talk about hostile.
It sounds like this is an NFC East issue. That's what it's really sounding like.
I think it's the NFL issue.
Well, you know what? Maybe obnoxious might not be the right word to describe Cowboys fans.
I mean, look at Atlanta and the Saints. Look at the Falcons and the Saints and how hot, like, it's just, there's rivalries and it gets funky. It gets funky. It gets funky.
And it's crazy, but even he
This is not even what our topic is today. Oh my God, I'm not about to entertain y'all shenanigans.
All right, so Ronnie Ransome, I'm gonna treat you like Stephen A. right now. I can't take it anymore. I'm sitting here listening to this ignorance. I'm looking at this banner in the background with a black eye on my Eagles. Let me tell you something. We lost, right? All seriousness, we lost to the better team. We were outcoached. Period. The second half of the game, there were people. Ronnie, you could have caught that pass, bad knees and all. And what was open, 2 wide open, 3 touchdowns, right? And you made a very valid point. The fumble was an issue with Jalen, but he went right back down the field and scored a touchdown.
He did.
So here's the thing. Couple things. I'm gonna tell you what's going on. I'm gonna give my Kevin voice. I'm gonna tell you what's going on. I'm gonna tell you why. We have a great quarterback. We have some work to do. We have some work to do. I do believe very firmly that we will be back at least in the playoffs next year. I don't think that's far-fetched. And like my wife said, this is not the topic, but I'm sitting there in my truck just going crazy like, okay, well, he's doing it again. I got to say something to him. So, yes, sir. And I'm sorry, you're a Steelers fan, aren't you?
You see, I'm glad you mentioned that.
I mean, because I want to hear,
Can we give the
I want to
Eagles a
hear
round of applause
the
for finally
soliloquy.
being to as many Super Bowls this century as we already have?
You
Let's
know,
give the
Terry
Eagles a round of applause
Terry
because it
Bradshaw
only
can't
took
throw any
all
more
23
passes.
years to get the 3 Super Bowls this
My
century.
podcast has been hijacked, people.
Terry Bradshaw can't throw passes anymore. I don't think that Lynn Swan can catch passes anymore. I do love your coach. I do love your coach. I do love your coach. But I just want to come in and heckle y'all and say something for the Eagles fans. We do not all suck. Some of us are inappropriate. I will say this to my wife's point. No, they shouldn't have booed Dak. But people don't see or hear the message. They just saw a cowboy. And that's why they booed. And I don't condone it at all. I think that's classless, actually. So, but at the end of the day, we lost to the better team, and that's it.
I mean, they shouldn't have booed Dak, but I mean, we just wanted to make sure that the Cowboys didn't try and make the weekend about them. And, they always try and find a way to make it about them, even when the game ain't even about them. So, you know what? I can't even fault them for booing Dak all the way. I give them like 20% blame, but, 80% of me was like, well, he probably deserves it. I would boo him too. But neither here nor there. Eric, man, we appreciate you joining the show, man. Maybe next year.
Sir.
Maybe next year. Maybe next year.
We're gonna have the same conversation next year. Hopefully with an eagle with a trophy hoisted on the other end. But I'm digging the background. I thought it was a black eye, but that's actually a tear. You went out of your way today.
That's the
you went out of your way today. You went out of your way today, Ronnie Ransome. I love you.
Appreciate you, man.
Thank you. Have a great show.
Bye.
Dr. Pitts, I did want to get your opinion about something though, to kind of transition from the Super Bowl real quick. So I don't know if you saw the interview clip from I don't know whose podcast it was or whatever, but it was during Super Bowl week, and they had Coach Prime on there, and Coach Prime had made a comment basically saying that he was talking about his recruiting philosophy, and his recruiting philosophy was basically that when he recruits quarterbacks, he wants a quarterback to come from a 2-parent household. When he recruits offensive linemen, he wants offensive linemen to come from a 2-parent household. When he recruits defensive linemen, he was like, they absolutely must come from a single-parent household, more specifically raised by their mama, desperate to get out there and save mama. That's who I need on my D line. And now I didn't watch the entire interview, so I don't know.
He was serious.
Yeah. I mean, he said it in a joking manner, but I mean, let's be real. Like, I mean, if there's one thing we talk about on the show is like where a majority of our, most talented athletes come from. Not all of them, but a good amount come from, unadvantageous situations.
This sounds like it ties into our topic today.
Yeah, it does, and that's why I wanted to bring it up, because I wanted to kind of get your thoughts on that. Do you feel that continuing to push this kind of cookie cutter narrative about recruiting philosophy? Now, granted, the one thing I will say is that Coach Prime is not alone in that philosophy. I mean, you can go back and look at any professional rankings in the last 50 years, any collegiate rankings. More times than not, if you want a quote unquote, stud or a dog on your team, yeah, you probably gonna look for somebody who might not have the cleanest of records, somebody who might not abide by all rules and everything, somebody who might not necessarily want to apply themselves in the classroom more so than they want to be in a gym or just be on the field or the court and things like that. Those are the type of narratives that have been pushed for decades, and that's always been kind of the cookie cutter narrative for what coaches look for in a player. Now, obviously, when they get on a public platform, they're going to sit there and say, like he says, we're looking for smart, fast, disciplined, and hardworking. Yeah, sounds good. But in a sport like football, in a barbaric sport like football, in a man, you know, as manly as a toxic masculinity sport can be, yeah, I'm not shocked that he said it. I was, you know, it was interesting that he said it on a public platform like that, you know, given, you know, where he's at and the job he holds and everything, you know. So, what's your thoughts on that?
I think it's an interesting concept. An interesting concept for an interesting strategic approach to recruiting. And I can see if I look at it, you know, I say this word all the time. If I look at holistically what's fueling that belief system, conceptually, it makes sense. You know, when you look at the defense, you need folks that's hungry, right?
Right.
You need folks that's ride or die. You need folks that are going to do whatever needs to be done to get the job done. You need folks on the D line that have no back down in them. You need folks on the D line that view the play as life or death, right? And
I know some D linemen too that
you know what I'm saying. So it's an interesting concept. As far as the O line goes and the QBs go and the whole, you know, 2-parent household thing. Now I'm going to put the additional mental health twist on it. There are single parent households that are healthy and teaching the right thing, and single parent households that are unhealthy teaching the wrong thing.
Right.
There are 2-parent households that are healthy and teaching the right thing, and 2-parent households that are unhealthy and teaching the wrong thing. So I think to just use that as a foundational concept that informs how you recruit, I think can get a little sketchy, because you have to be, you have to go deeper than that. It's like just having because here's the exception, right? Here's one of the exceptions. Hypothetically, you have a young man who's really good at football, but he was raised by his mom, but he's effeminate, even though he's really good at football. Remember, you spoke about a former teammate that you had that was a beast, right?
Right. Yeah.
That had some other things going on. And so you have to be careful, is what I'm saying. You have to be careful, because just coming from a single parent household or coming from a 2-parent household, and in all fairness, Prime knows that, right? He knows that.
Yeah, I think he came from a single parent household.
There's so many other contributing factors that we need to go into that. And for as stellar an athlete and businessman as he is, he knows all of that. But at the foundation, it's an interesting concept. But definitely, you know.
And I've even seen some people, you know, obviously, you know, they had to equate it to race, you know, because when we think of 2-parent households, what's the underlying subconscious thought? Oh, white family. Single parent household, oh, black family, you know. So a lot of people were pointing at, you know, that he, you know, now that he's at Colorado, he's, you know, appropriating the culture now, because, you know, he's giving off a stereotype that, while it might not be publicly talked about, we know that it's heavily influenced and glorified in some instances. You know, so, but I mean, I always laugh and joke. I always joke and say, you know, when I go to a Waffle House, I want a felon, you know, on the grill, because I know when he make that All-Star special, he gonna make that joint with everything in him, because he know he can't go back.
You said a sidebar. I want to circle back to something real quick, and it's something that I'll definitely try to remember to look up, because now I'm curious about it. We know that the league, from an NFL and an NBA and probably even a Major League Baseball perspective, that the majority of the leagues are men of and women of color.
Right.
I wonder though what the demographic is for college.
Like race demographic.
Uh-huh.
Oh, well, shoot. For football, it's predominant. Well,
That's that's
without
exactly
knowing,
why I'm like,
well, I
I
will say this,
wonder.
without knowing the specific numbers, I can tell you this much. I can safely say for the skill positions, so that's
Mhm,
quarterbacks, running backs, tight ends,
mhm,
receivers, DBs,
mhm,
linebackers, safeties, all the skill positions on the field,
mhm.
those are predominantly black. I
Okay.
can rest assured that much and say that. I don't know the specific
Okay.
numbers. I don't know how close the
Mhm,
split is, but I'm sure for the skill positions, it's predominantly, black. Now the
mhm,
linemen, um, I think that might be more maybe 65, 45, 70, 30 white to black.
mhm,
Um, yeah, especially offensive linemen. You go to a lot of those bigger schools, a lot of their offensive
mhm.
linemen are, predominantly
California.
white. Most offensive linemen are predominantly white. But I will say, some of the best to ever walk on the field have been black. Um, so and Hispanic. Anthony Munoz from the Bengals back in the I think the 80s and 90s was a
Uh-huh.
dog at offensive tackle. But I think for skills positions, I can probably confidently say it's at least 60% black. Um, for the demographic ratio, I can easily say that.
I just pulled it up. 41%, and this source is from Zippia. 41.9% of all student athletes are women, while 51.8% are men. The average age of an employed student athlete is 35 years old. The most common ethnicity of student athletes is white at 66.9%, followed by Hispanic or Latino at 13.1%. Black or African American is 8.8%, and unknown is 5.7%. Hold on, let me pull up a
I,
greater.
I wonder if that's all. I wonder if that's all collegiate sports.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's got to be all collegiate sports.
Uh,
Because I promise you that 8.8% of African Americans that's playing sports, that 8.8, I'm pretty sure 98.8%
eight
is
8.8% of all student athletes are LGBT. Um, Interesting. I'm going to research this a little bit further because
yeah, let's
I'm curious now that because if just based on that, if that report is accurate, then that's even worthy of further discussion, because if in fact we find that the 8.8% of student athletes across the country are Black, but
mhm.
the professional leagues are predominantly Black, then even though only 2% of athletes are going to go pro, that's an interesting,
Right.
that's huge.
Yeah.
That speaks volumes. If only 8.8% of the athletes are Black, 2% go pro, and the bulk of that 2% are Black, that's speaking volumes. We're gonna research that further. We're gonna have to dedicate some time to that. We're gonna talk about that.
Yeah. For our listeners out there, though, put in the
Yeah.
comments on one of our videos what you think. Do you think
Yeah,
do you
we
think
want to
this
piece that out of
racial
the.
disparity is is an issue, or what do you think? Do you think it's culturally appropriated? Tell us what you think in the comments below. But
We're talking about
yeah, no,
today.
I think I'm very mindful of certain stereotypes that are pushed now in sports and everything. Because with those stereotypes, some people had to be objectified and judged, unfairly for those certain things that they had to, display and whatnot. So I'm very mindful about certain stereotypes, but
Mhm,
um, I would be lying if I didn't say that, yeah, when it comes to a sport like football, yeah, when I'm in those trenches on the offensive defensive line, do I want some absolute dogs in there, like some people who,
mhm,
might not always care about following the rules all the time?
Mhm.
Yeah, because I mean, it's a dangerous spot to be on the football field in the trenches. So yeah, I want some, I want some people to know when it's time to be dangerous and when it's time to, be yourself.
A little more coddly.
Yeah, be like a panda bear, because panda bears are, they're a bear at the end of the day. Like, a bear is a bear, like that's like
There's fair.
that's like just a regular garden snake and a cottonmouth. A garden snake is still a snake. It's still a bite you. It might not hurt,
Right.
but it's still gonna bite.
Right.
Yeah, but yeah. So I just wanted to share that with you because I wanted to see what your thoughts on that was. I thought that was very interesting. Also, too, before we get into the topic, one last thing. Today is the first day of the XFL. They have their opening kickoff today. Shout out to Virginia State's Will Adams for making the final 53-man roster for the Las Vegas Vipers and everything. Shout out to him. Former head coach Reggie Barlow is coaching the DC Defenders. He's the head coach for them. I think they play tonight. I think they play tonight or tomorrow night at 8:30. And then shout out to my, really good friend, my best friend, my brother, Carlton Harris, who is the head player development and strength coach for the I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but for the Orlando team for the XFL and the San Antonio Brahmas. I think that's the Brahmas. So shout out to him. I think both one of those teams play today and the other one plays tomorrow. So I know he's gonna be super busy. But yeah, so we still have football, and I think it's good. I think it's good to have these developmental leagues to give people in college a chance to really showcase their talents for one more year, or for people who just weren't quite ready for the league to get some extra practice and everything. So shout out to The Rock, and hopefully everything goes well with that. So let's get into this topic because this is a really great topic. You can tell the passion in our show today, which is kind of what we're talking about. Defining love and passion. Why is passion so important for an athlete? Successful athletes often have a passion and purpose for what they do. They are focused and determined to get better every day and have specific goals they actively pursue. It is passion and purpose that help overcome life obstacles, focus on goals, and outwork the competition. So, Dr. Pitts, let's start with you. Why do you feel that passion is so important, for student athletes and professional athletes?
I actually I was a contributing author on a book called Pursuing the Passion for Your Purpose a few years ago. Okay. And one of the things that I said, do I have a copy of it here at my fingertips? I don't. Of course I don't, because I wasn't prepared. But, it ties into part of what I was going to ask you, right? In that, does lacking passion for something mean that you engage in it with mediocrity? Or is passion necessary? Can you be really good at something and not be passionate about it and still excel? I think it depends on the person. I think it depends on the person, and I think it depends on the motivation behind why they're doing what they're doing, right? And that's, you share week in and week out, Ronnie, how your love for football has been so instrumental in fueling what you think, feel, say, and do throughout the course of your life since you've been playing. And I can't help but to wonder if that same fire that you've always had, if that would have been there if you weren't passionate about it, but you were more passionate about taking care, like, for folks to know, Ronnie's from a 2-parent household, right? But using Coach Prime's thought process, if you were really, really, really good at football and you were, you had scholarship offers on the table and you could go and do the darn thing, and you were more passionate about getting your mom out of adverse circumstances or getting your family out of adverse circumstances than you were more so about playing football. You just saw football as a vehicle. You see what I'm saying? Because we
Yeah.
don't know. We haven't interviewed every single solitary player to know, like, are you really passionate about this sport? Or is it like it was in that scene in uh the Michael Orr, what's the freaking movie?
Oh,
The,
Blindside.
yeah, The Blind Side, where they were sitting on the sidewalk at the laundromat toward the end of the movie. And she said, Michael, do you even want to play football? And he said, well, I am kind of good at it. I am kind of good at it. And she said, yeah, you are. Right.
Mhm.
That was one of the things that she and her husband were going back and forth about was, yeah, he's good and he's been coached up, but we didn't even ask him if this is what he wants to do. Or is he just doing this because it's what we want him to do? Because all the coaches and everybody is hyping him up. I
Right.
think that's a determinant, Ronnie. It's like, is everybody that's in the league, is everybody that's on an athletic scholarship, are they doing it because they truly are passionate and love the sport? Or are
Mhm.
some of them only doing it because they see it as a means to a better way of life? And the reason why I present it that way is the same reason, Ronnie, why people go to jobs that they hate every day,
Mhm.
but they keep going because that job pays the bills. And they feel like that's the best possible option for them to experience some semblance of a decent quality of life. So I know that was long-winded, and I don't know if I
Oh,
answered your question or not, but that's how I feel about it. Like, I really do. I believe that it's situational and that the passion doesn't necessarily have to be for the sport. It could be other motivating factors that present themselves as passion that have folks engaging in these athletic arenas that they're engaging in.
I think a great example is, like, let's take Kyler Murray, for example, right?
Mhm.
When Kyler Murray was in college, he was drafted 9th overall by the Oakland A's.
Mhm.
And when they drafted him, they were like, hey, look, we kind of want you to come play now, but we understand you have a passion for football,
Mhm.
because just as great as a baseball player he was
Mhm.
just as great at football. And so the Oakland A's gave him a chance to play his, final college season at Oklahoma. He
Mhm.
messes around and win a Heisman.
Mhm.
And then the question becomes as well, does he go with his first love of baseball, or does he go with his passion of football?
Mhm.
And he chose the passion of football.
Mhm.
A lot of people kind of question his heart in it now because, it
Mhm.
came out that he had the whole study clause and everything, and things of
Mhm.
that nature. Um, I do think both of those reasons can occupy a space in somebody's mind and, amongst the collective of athletes. For me, for example, as much as I love to play football and I love the game of
Mhm.
football, I was also under the mindset of, like, I was doing, like, for example, and I've said this before, like, I knew when I went to college, I had to get a full ride. Like,
Mhm.
I had to, because I didn't want my parents to have to pay for, student loans. My
Yeah.
mom already has student loans. I seen how, she was, stressing about that and feeling about
Mhm.
those. So I was like, well, I don't want that.
Right.
So yeah, I had to, and because of that, I had to make sure I displayed a certain level of play, in
Mhm.
order to make sure I could get a full ride. And I ended up getting one for Virginia State, so I didn't have to worry about undergrad student loans and everything.
Ronnie,
Um,
let me piggyback because you said that when you talked about your passion, um, Eric just sent me a text, and so his favorite Eagles player of all times is he loves Brian Dawkins and he loves uh the other one, the one that passed away. I forget his name, Reggie White. Um, Brian Dawkins, he said, was always passionate about football, but once he got into the league, he felt extreme pressure to take care of his family, which put him into depression.
mhm,
So it's like that love, that passion, that intensity that he had for the sport ended up, and this is how we say it, right? Is it a blessing or a curse?
mhm,
The initially the love, the passion, the fire that he had for football, which was a tremendous blessing, put him in a position to be able to support his other love, which was his family. But then the pressure of performing was so great that it ended up compromising his mental health, and the very thing that he loved ended up hurting him, which
And
was
I think we see that a lot. I think even us as clinicians, you know, like they say when you do something as such as being a clinician or a professional athlete or a doctor or a lawyer, anything like that, like, you know, people who do that oftentimes have a passion for that specific area of focus.
Yeah.
We know this to be true. In order for your passion to truly, to materialize it and to, feel it, you have to do that free-minded and clear-minded. Like, now
or else
granted,
vicarious trauma.
right, now granted, now when I say you have to do those things, with a free and clear mind, what I'm not saying is you're doing that absence of any stress, worry, doubt, or anything.
Right.
But what I
Right.
am saying is, in order for you to keep that thing a passion, you have to, there has to be a love for it, that you love the process of it, right? You can't always just be in love with the results of it, because if you find yourself just in love with the results of the passion, it's not really a passion, right?
Right.
It's just a placeholder.
Can I plug on that?
Sure.
You just hit a nerve, because anybody who knows me knows that one of my forever, Ronnie, one of my target populations was vulnerable youth, right? Vulnerable youth. And it's a running joke among my family and friends that I'm a freaking pit bull when it comes to the kids. I like my own kids, your kids, everybody. Like I can get off when it comes to, if I find out that folk are not treating their kids properly. It puts me in a funky headspace. And that passion to be an advocate, to be a safe haven, to be a refuge for hurting children was what fueled me wanting that to be, for as long as I can remember, a target population that I worked with clinically. But what ended up happening, Ronnie, is that I got to a point where I was on a couple of really bad cases, like really bad cases. And then I have family members, one in particular that comes to mind, that got a really bad case where the child on her case ended up being murdered by the parent. And it messed us both up, right? Yeah, it messed us both up. And when I found myself going into meetings, Ronnie, where so I'm just gonna put it on blast, right? Because this is my show and I can say it, right? So I absolutely, positively have very little respect for child protective services. Like, I can't stand them. I can't stand them. I cannot stand them. So much so that back when I was in undergrad, I had to do a thesis for my bachelor's program. And my bachelor's thesis was on the need for child welfare reform in this country, because in too many of our states, child protective services are straight trash. They are trash. They are trash. They are trash. You hear me?
I definitely agree with that.
And I've encountered child protective service teams who are more concerned with protecting the rights of the abusive parents and caregivers than they are in protecting the well-being of the children. And one of the most notable cases where that happened was the little boy in California.
Yeah, Gabriel, I think it's Gabriel Fernandez. Yeah.
Yes, where I literally, my head almost popped off.
That was a crazy documentary.
Right.
That was so wild.
That documentary solidified for me that I can't work with children anymore, because I had a case that my greatest fear was that was going to be what was going to happen to the children that were on my caseload, because Child Protective Services' clear primary goal was reunification, when everything about those parents clearly indicated that those children were not going to be safe with those parents. And so much so, there was unethical, immoral, I talk about backstabbing, I mean, just some clearly egregious ethical violations on that case because they were so, I mean, lying to judges, the whole 9 yards, front. Like it was egregious. It was egregious, the behavior that this child protective service team engaged in. And I was like, I told my husband, I said, I can't do this anymore. I cannot do this anymore because having been an emotional support person for my cousin who went through it, and the child that she begged and pleaded with her supervisor and the judges to not put them back in the home. And in that case, Ronnie, within 4 hours, the child was dead. Within 4 hours of reunification, the child was killed. And I said, you know what? I can't do that. I can't do that. I can't do it anymore. So I do not, and people tell me all the time, but Dr. Pitts, you're good with kids to stand up. I don't work with kids no more.
I feel
I don't
you.
work with kids no more. And then as you can see, I'm still very, very passionate about it, and it upsets me and it's heartbreaking. And I believe that is what God called me and chose me and anointed me to do. Even in that though, even in that, there's seasons. And I can't say that I will never go back to working with children, but I'm in a season of my professional journey that working with children is not in the best interest of my overall well-being, because I'm so passionate about protecting these children that I can't do it. I won't do it.
I feel you. And I think, I think, sometimes, too much of a good thing can be a bad thing, and even with passions. And I think, that's why I say when you do your passion, it has to be about the process of the passion, not the end result.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times when we fall in love with the end result, we miss the understanding of why that passion and that process of achieving that passion is so important. Because we fall in love with the process, we fall in love with the doing, the challenges, the understanding, the gaining insight and knowledge and appreciation for why we love doing what we do, whether it's a sport, career, whatever the case may be. You have to be able to do your passion free and clear-minded as much as possible, because if you allow those expectations, if you allow those stressors, those worries, those concerns to bleed in onto your passion, it takes over, because now it's not a passion, now it's a responsibility. And I think
Can
a
I
lot of
ask you a
times,
question about that? Finish
what's
your
up?
thought, but I want to ask you a question about that.
I was gonna say, a lot of times I think for some athletes, their passion turns into a responsibility. It turns into a chore. And who likes chores? Nobody likes a chore.
Yeah.
When your passion turns into a chore, there's no love in it. It's just, I have to do this because, not I get to do this.
Yeah.
What was your question gonna be?
Super Bowl, Carolina Panthers, Denver Broncos, Peyton's last season. I said, I believe that that's when Cam Newton lost his passion for football.
I think we know why.
In my opinion, he was never the same after that game. And
we know why.
What appeared to me was the passion that he had for the sport even though he continued to play, his performance deteriorated over time. And I think that loss impacted him in such a deep manner that it just put his light out.
If I read how the season was supposed to end, and Peyton Manning got to sail off into the sunset, but I just had an MVP season, I probably feel some type of way too.
Yeah.
On top of also, a franchise who exploited, just my physical gifts and not my talent, and had me running, 20-25 QB powers a game. And then getting his shoulder obliterated by TJ Watt when they played the Steelers. I want to say it was 2016, 2017. That was really probably the end of it when he got, because if you go back and look at the hit, TJ Watt hits him. I mean, as soon as Cam Newton arm like this, he catches him square in the shoulder. And, he just kind of was never the same since. But yeah, situations like that, when when the expectations become so, they feel like they're so insurmountable,
Yeah.
when you feel like, it's do or die,
Yeah.
and especially at that, like, even for somebody like Dak Prescott, I don't think, we'll ever question his passion for playing football. But when you play in a city like Dallas and the expectations that are preached and driven and conditioned by a delusional owner such as Jerry Jones, that this is the year, this is our year, we're gonna do what we got to do to win. When that pressure is on you, you can have a good time out there, but eventually it's like, we gave you this money, what's up? And those athletes hear when they're not delivering. They hear when they're not doing what they're supposed to do, from an aspect of, we gave you this amount of money, we expect the championship, and that doesn't happen. They hear that chatter, they hear those rumors, they hear those talks and everything like that. And it takes a very, strong-minded and strong-willed individual to not allow those expectations or the judgment, the critique, the comments, the naysayers, the doubt to penetrate that passion. That's not an easy thing to really withstand at times.
That being said, is it reasonable to also suggest that pressure has the ability to take the fun out of it, right? Like when I think about, oftentimes, and we'll hear during the press conferences and stuff, some of the coaches will say, we, the guys, we're going to go out there, we're going to have fun, we're going to get this win, we're going to do whatever. But they emphasize that they want the players to have fun while they're getting the win. So when you look at some of these teams that have just had consistently losing seasons, is it fair to say that you get to a point where you stop having fun? And because you're not having fun, the passion goes out the window too. Because it's like,
the worst time to lose a game, when the worst time to really be getting, like, I'm talking about getting destroyed, is during a cold weather game.
Wow.
Because it seemed like the more the other team scored, the colder it get outside. I swear to God, man, when we played Bloomsburg my last year state, they beat us 35-14, but it was what was it? It was 21-7 at halftime. Yeah. And I kid you not, when they got to 28, they got to 28 really quickly. And then when they got to 35, the quarterback had literally walked from the 5-yard line into the end zone. That's how great the boot play they did was. And when he walked in the end zone, it seemed like the wind just came in and just blew even colder air around us. And I was like, man, this is terrible. Like, there's nothing worse than losing and it's cold outside and you sweating.
You losing and you cold.
What, man? So yeah, no, when I was in high school, the high school I went to before I got there, they were historically a really good team. They had got to the state championship a couple times, had gotten to, deep into the state playoffs a couple times and everything, had phenomenal talent, the whole 9 yards. When I was in Little League, my worst record in Little League was 6-2. We either were playing for the championship or we lost the championship, but we were really good. So when my first 6 years of playing football, I didn't know what losing was. We just didn't lose. In 6 years of Little League, I lost 6 games.
Wow.
Like we did not lose. Now when I got to high school, it was a completely different story.
You became intimately acquainted with losing Ronnie.
Way too acquainted. And I kid you not, like it wasn't fun at all. Like, and then so when you're in high school, when you're not on a winning team, ain't no coaches coming to see you play like that. Now, granted, once again, like, I was a decent high school player. I did my job. I did what I had to do. At 6'1", 275, I held it down. But when you on a 5-5, 5-5, 4-6, and 3-7, football team,
Anybody paying no mind?
You ain't, I want Aaron Donald out there. So, I won't, just popping off somebody's screen. So for me, like us by not winning made it harder to have, college recruiters really come by and be like, oh, okay, well, his talent is equaling wins, Now granted, as an offensive defensive lineman, can you really influence a game at the high school level? Absolutely. If you are, that great of a player. I wasn't no 5-star or 4-star. I was a 2.5, 3-star, which depending on what website you looked at, so my impact was, here and there. So when, when schools don't come look at you because your team sucks and stuff like that, and you have to be the one who has to handle all your recruiting and everything because don't nobody care that you're on a losing squad. Yeah, that can be very disheartening. That can be very it'll rob you of your passion really quick. There were a lot of days where, I was like, you know what? Track might be my thing in college. Because I kid you, my track team in high school, I kid you not, we didn't lose a regular season. My senior year was the first year we had lost a regular season track meet in over 9 years.
Whoa.
Not now play,
Whoa.
when we got to postseason and everything, it becomes more individualized. But team-wise, we ran this and where we were in the Central District, we won the Central District title 9 years in a row. It won't even close.
Wow.
It wasn't until my senior year that we lost our first regular season track meet. And I mean, you'd have thought we lost the Super Bowl the way they looked at us, like, y'all lost a track meet? Like, what? Y'all didn't score enough points. So, but I mean, we were winning, so it was fun. Like, I go to a track meet, everybody lit, hype, having fun, whoop, whoop, people getting, I mean, just like a good old time. Then you come back, football season come back around, and you just like,
here they go.
What? Used to grind my gears. Oh my God. See, I was a good kid. I come like Prime said, I come from a 2-parent household. So, I had some sense about
right.
But used to grind my gears, Dr. Pitts. Oh my God. See, when you on a bad team, not only do the other players let you know about it on the other team, your own school lets you know about it too.
Wow.
Oh my God. I'm talking about it be the most unathletic, got 3 left feet. Y'all suck. Why y'all losing all them games? Y'all must suck. Y'all ain't no good.
Can't even spell football and talking trash.
Bro, it used to piss me off so much because like I never forget it. I'll stop ranting in a second, I promise. There's this team that's close by. It's called Dinwiddie High School. It's Dinwiddie County, Virginia. They actually just won the state. They actually got a sophomore quarterback on the team right now. Absolute stud.
Wow.
Like absolute. He had over, I think, 3,000 passing yards and almost 2,000 rushing yards in the season as a sophomore.
Wow.
He ain't nothing but maybe like 5'11", 6 foot, about $180, $190. But I'm talking about a stud. Anyways, they are historically good, right? I never forget it. It was my sophomore season. We were playing them on a Monday night because we couldn't play that Friday night because the game got rained out. So we played that Monday. Dr. Pitts, what do you think the halftime score was of this Monday game against an undefeated Dinwiddie Generals? And at this point, I think we were like 1-3 Matoka Warriors. What do you think the halftime score was of that game?
28-0.
49-0.
At halftime?
At halftime, 49-0. The final score of the game was 56 to, I think we scored 7. I think we ended up scoring 7. I kid you not. The next day at school, you would have thought we were the Bad News Bears the way people were talking about us. And it used to piss me off so bad because I'm like, bro, like, y'all ain't gonna keep talking to me like this, like I suck. It ain't. You better go pull. And so I think also too, I think that's also one of the hard things about team sports is like
Mhm.
when you find yourself in those positions where overall the team is terrible, but you have
You've
those
got
individuals
stellar athletes
and
on the team.
think about how many high school athletes now nowadays there's really no excuse to be seen, but think about how many high school athletes 10, 15, 20 years ago who were trapped on terrible teams
Yeah.
and
He said
could not
trap.
get the notoriety. Like,
Mhm.
imagine how much their passion was brought into question. Like,
Yeah.
because it's it almost goes against any type of logical sense with anything you do. Imagine if being a clinician and you just kept on losing clients. Like they come for one session and then
Right.
they don't come back for session two.
Right.
Now, one or two things are either happening. Either you are playing Jesus Christ and you're solving their issues in one session, or,
There's something wrong with my therapeutic approach.
right. But you love being a therapist. But how
Yeah.
long would you love being a therapist if you only had people coming for one session?
Yeah.
Eventually, you'll be like, damn, like,
What's wrong with me? Right.
am
Ronnie,
I?
I want to ask you this real quick because
Go
we
ahead.
only got 5 minutes left. I wanted to put a spin on it, and I want to circle back to the question: Does love influence athletic performance? You know, I'm always talking about systemic and holistic. And what are your thoughts about how a person is loved within their relationships outside of play? How does that influence athletic performance?
Well, we'll start with from a family perspective.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a healthy, supportive, loving family,
Mm-hmm.
you would think theoretically that your passion is being supported to the umpteenth degree,
Mm-hmm.
and you are able to really pursue your passion in as free a clear mind as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that's theoretically.
Mm-hmm.
In some situations that's not always the case. Like we talked about, two things can be true. You can
Mm-hmm.
come from a two-parent household but have two parents who should not be parents.
Right.
We
Right.
see that a lot in our
Shouldn't be parents
profession.
and
And
shouldn't be together.
right, we
Mhm.
see that a lot in our profession and everything.
Right.
So we know what that looks like and we know how that impacts a child and everything. But as far as like a relationship with like a partner or something like that, yeah, like when you and your partner are clicking and everything's going well, like the two times I actually dated during the season,
Mhm.
the two relationships I was in, during when I played football,
Mhm.
I only got into them because I knew that more times than not they would probably go pretty well, and for the most part they did. They went really well. So, and then for me, that kind of gave me extra boost. Like well now I got to go out here, back up all this trash I was telling her during the week because I'm a boost myself up to my girl. I'm about to go out here and do my little thing and whatnot. Go do what I got to do. Now I got to go out there and actually do.
Right.
So, but sure enough too, like when that relationship ain't going well, hey,
Yeah.
look, one or two things will happen if you come across I'll speak for male athletes. I can't speak for female athletes, but I'll speak for a male athlete. One or two things will happen if you come across a male athlete that just had his heart broken before a game. One or two things gonna happen. Either they gonna turn into the second coming of whatever all-star, all-time player it is,
And take off heads.
or they just gone.
Wow.
They just gone. I've seen both. I done seen some. Shoot, hell, I ain't gonna lie to you. My freshman year in college, when me and my high school sweetheart broke up, we had spring practice the very next day, and it was a scrimmage, and I was the only center for that entire spring ball. I was so pissed off and so hurt. I ain't come out now one play the entire spring scrimmage, and we scrimmaged for 4 hours. I didn't come out now one play. I was so pissed off and so hurt. All I want to do is just bang heads the entire time.
Oh
And
my God.
look, I was so out of it and just so focused on knocking heads off. The coach had to pull. He's like, "Bro, you ain't had a break yet. Sit." I was like, "No, coach, let me back in. I can't
Gotta get it out.
I got what?" So it can do one or two things, so yeah, love is important, passion is important, passion gives you purpose, right?
Yeah.
When you are led by purpose and that leads with passion, you can do a lot of phenomenal things.
Yeah.
When purpose and passion align with each other, you can do powerful things.
Yeah.
Power
Indeed.
of the P.
The power of the P.
And how you take that
Not
is how you take.
taking that bait. If not taking
That should be the title of this show, The Power of the P.
not taking the bait. I'm gonna leave y'all with this. The 12 traits that successful athletes demonstrate: self-confidence, motivation, self-discipline, optimism, acceptance of criticism, poise under stress, focus, resiliency, competitive spirit, natural leadership, humility, and passion. That's all we have for y'all today. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Be ignorant as cluck. He's ignorant, but I love it. I love it. Y'all have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you back next week. Same bat channel, same bat time. Have a good weekend, everybody. Bye-bye.
Holla, everybody.
Bye.